But back to Taproot. Let's dive further on that with our CoinDesk Managing Editor of Technology, Christie Harkin, who is in Toronto. So, Christie, how did it go on Sunday with Taproot and the upgrade on the Bitcoin network? What was it? And tell us what the significance of this is.
Did actually gather, well, in my case, it was the cat and the dog. My kids were watching too from their places when we watched Taproot come online. And there was a bit of a Taproot party, and that confetti was not all digital. So it was a big day for people who knew. And as far as investors are concerned, if they would like to know more about Taproot, George Kaludis put together an amazing report, the investor's perspective on the Taproot upgrade, and it's available on CoinDesk.com. So you could give that a read and figure out why it is so important. And one of the reasons it is because it was an upgrade that happens by consensus. And it shows that you can see the blocks moving along, they tick along, and that's how we improve things on Bitcoin. And it happened without a lot of strife. The biggest thing we had was a lot of people holding the door for each other, go, no, we should do it this way. No, let's do it this way. And that took a long time to happen. But once it did, now we have some amazing new toolkits it's an amazing new toolkit for developers to help with privacy, to help with scalability. And this is the kind of stuff that we're going to see some amazing things come out of over the next few years. Is the price going to jump right away? Probably not, because the stuff that's going to happen to make Bitcoin better is still in the works. And that's what we saw after the last major upgrade, SegWit. That's the stuff that allowed something like the Lightning Network to happen. Did it happen overnight? No. And it's still being developed to make it really usable. So it takes time. And people don't like it when things take time, but that is a feature, not a bug of Bitcoin.
So, Christie, explain this to me like you have to explain everything else. Explain it to me like I'm an idiot. And how would you describe Taproot and its importance to the Bitcoin network? Exactly what does it do? You kind of touched a little bit on it, but what exactly does it do, and why should I care?
The important thing to know is that, as I say, it is a toolkit for developers. This is not something that you're going to go into your Bitcoin wallet today and be like, wow, this is totally different and Bitcoin is way more usable than it was before. That's not going to happen. What happened is, so you have to first understand digital signatures are at the heart of this. They are created from the private keys that control Bitcoin wallets. And you need a digital signature to approve any transactions. So what we were using before was something called an elliptic curve digital signature algorithm. Again, really techie. But that algorithm has now been changed to Schnorr. So we now have Schnorr signatures rather than EDSCA. Now, Schnorr signatures are smaller and faster and linear. And these are the sorts of things that these signatures are going to be very, very useful to do things that the EDSCA signatures could not. So it's like having a different engine in a car. And where you could only tick along in a certain way and make a lot of noise now we have a better engine that we can do things with, and it'll be quieter, it'll be more private, it'll be faster. So that's what we've got now. And what has to happen is developers now have to build the cars around that great new engine.
So it's no longer going to use that like weird figure eight or that you kind of see in all the textbooks about how they figure out the signatures. It's now going to be something else. It's going to be a different system, correct? And would make it easy?
It's going to look the same to you and me, but in the back end, it's going to be different.
Right. So will Alice still have to wait 10 minutes for the transaction to be completed when she buys her coffee with Bob?
If she's on chain, it's not changing the size of the block. It's not going to make blocks go faster.
I think that
blocks are going to be ticking along every 10 minutes. Yeah, blocks are still ticking along every 10 minutes, and that's how long it takes for transactions to go through, on a block. It does mean, however, that eventually more transactions will be able to be crammed into one of those blocks. And trust me when I say the block size is not getting bigger. It's just that you can fit more things in it. So because what's going in it is going to be a little smaller. It's also going to be a little harder to track things. There will be more opportunities for, and I'm going to say this quietly, but there will be more opportunities for better coin mixing down the road. There will be more. Yeah. So yeah, privacy is, like I said, privacy is going to be a big deal. If you're off chain, if you're using the Lightning Network, then yes, Alice can send her coffee money instantaneously over Lightning. And Schnorr signatures will also help with maintain privacy at the other end once the Lightning transactions go back on the blockchain.
Christie, can I just ask you to break down the privacy thing a little bit further, though? Because I think this is something that, a lot of sort of mainstream audiences are very confused about when it comes to Bitcoin. Some people think it's completely private and thus, a paradise for money launderers. And then other people are like, well, no, but you can see every transaction on the blockchain. So can you just break down just in a slightly more granular way how this affects privacy, like what the privacy situation is now and what's going to change? Because I think there's a lot of misunderstandings about that.
Well, sure. On a very, very basic level, a lot of multi-signature and indeed mixed transactions, they show up on the blockchain a little bit differently from your average transaction. You can kind of see, oh, that's a mixed transaction, or that's a smart contract with multi-signatures involved, and so you can kind of tell the difference between these kinds of signatures. That is not, with Schnorr signatures, they're going to all look like regular old signatures now. And it's not going to be as easy to figure out, oh, that's been mixed, or, oh, that's a multi-sig. Those are now being sort of smoothed out. So that's one way that privacy is going to get a boost. It's going to make all the signatures kind of look like normal signatures.
Are there regulatory implications then? I mean, because that seems something that would make regulators a little bit nervous, no? I mean, because things like mixing and what do you think?
That, I have to say, is the one thing that kind of concerns me a little bit about this. I've been kind of saying this sort of under my breath for a little while. It's like, I think once people really start to use this technology, and once it does start getting built into things, I think it's going to come up as a part of the conversation. But nobody really seems to be paying a whole lot of attention to it just yet. So I think what's going to happen is the same thing that we've seen in a lot of Bitcoin development over the years, is it happens and then it gets big enough and then nobody can do anything about it because it's too late. And
so does anything happen? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's it. I was pretty much done.
Oh, okay. So does anything happen now with Bitcoin in terms of its role in, let's say, DeFi or the network itself being used in situations in decentralized finance? Does that change and make it more appealing and more attractive to use and to build things off of the Bitcoin network as opposed to, let's say, Ethereum?
I think that one of the things that we're going to see is that smart contracts, not perhaps built directly on Bitcoin, but more complex smart contracts are going to be possible with these Schnorr signatures. And not only are they going to be possible, but they're going to be pretty private too. So that is definitely something that will have a much better chance of getting developed. To what extent, what form that's going to take, I'm not sure yet. That these things are still going to be built. But
okay,
yeah,
that was kind of my question as well. Like, can you mentioned this is a better tool for programmers. So this is basically allow for more smart contracts like programmability on Bitcoin.
Right.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's absolutely the case.